Sometimes. All right. Being at 6 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. We'll start with the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Is there any additions or corrections to the agenda? Seeing none, I'd take a motion to approve.
Make the motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Ryan. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Mel. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda. Any items on there? Not. I would take a motion to approve.
Make the motion to approve.
Thank you, Ryan. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mel. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Up next, Visitors Council. Becky Wheeler, Karen Share.
I'm assuming I come up, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
please.
I've been here before, so. Hello, my name is Becky Wheeler. I am a resident in Manorville. I am also the Director of Early Learning at Summer Education District here in Casson. And I've actually lived in the Casson-Manorville area for more than 30 years. My kids are KM students, so I just want to give you a little background on who I am. I'm also on the board for the Casson-Manorville Care and Share organization, and every year we do one huge fundraiser in November, and we've typically had that at the Casson School building, and 2 years ago we actually moved it to the new fire hall and rented that area. A little bit about Casson, our Care and Share organization, is that we fundraise to provide support for families and children in Casson and Manorville exclusively. So we are in this little tiny area with what we do. To give you a little bit of ideas of what we've earned over the years with this auction alone, in 2023 we made $40,000. 24 was $49,000, and this last year it was $55,400. And every one of those dollars goes back to the Casson-Manorville community. Major benefactors of us, of our organization, is SEMCAC. We provide SEMCAC with about $20,000 a year. That helps with utility rent, car repairs for citizens and families within our area. We do the Ready, Set, Learn backpack program. We do $5,000 for that organization. We do Place at the Table, which is at St. Peter's Church, which provides weekly meals to families. You don't have to be a member there, but we provide $5,400 to that organization. Faith in Action, we did $5,000 the last few years. This year they didn't need any funding because they feel like they're good, so we moved that $5,000 actually over to the food shelf. So we'll be giving $8,000 to the food shelf this year. And then our big contributor is the Dolly Parton Mountain Nation Library for Dodge County. Dodge County does not have a lot of big cities in it, obviously, so we are the primary provider for that program. That program provides a book a month for children birthed to the age of 5. It's developmentally appropriate, it's mailed to their home, free to sign up. We provide $10,000 to that organization. Without that $10,000, that organization would not be able to exist for the community, for the children in Dodge County. Our big benefactor for this is during the holiday season, we sponsor holiday gifts and meals for families. This last year we were able to provide gifts for 180 kids in the Casson-Manorville area. That was 70 families, and within that we provided $21,000 in Hy-Vee gift cards from Casson Hy-Vee. So that's kind of what we do. Everything we do is obviously volunteer. We're a nonprofit. So I'm coming here today just to throw it out there. I did send emails to the council members and the mayor, didn't hear back, so I decided to come and talk instead. Is that this past 2 years we were able to rent or reserve the community room and the fire hall garage area for $250 for 2 days. This next year we've been quoted at $750 for those 2 days, which I get is a huge reduction and a huge discount compared to what it would cost other organizations perhaps to benefit, but I wanted to share the awesome work that we're doing here in this tiny community of Casson-Manorville and asking if that can be reconsidered, because that is expensive for a nonprofit, especially for us when we are giving back immediately. The fire department are huge volunteers during those 2 days. The men and women are incredibly helpful. We appreciate them. With that, they're able to get a liquor license from the city, and they make a significant amount of money on the alcohol sales for our event also. So it kind of helps each other out a little bit in that. And so I'm just hoping that the charges that we're facing for this next year for our November could be reconsidered to be reduced in some capacity to make it a little bit easier on our organization to be able to take that money and put it back into the community versus a charge for the facility. That's all I have.
Thank you. Wish the fire department was here. I was just curious what kind of income they make on that.
You know, I don't know what the Relief Association makes off of that, but we can certainly check on that.
They did, and
One of the relief
I know.
meetings, too. I think it was like, there was 1,500 at one of the events, and the other event was like 2,000 or 3,000.
So this one probably is the higher one, I would assume.
I would
Yes,
assume
it is.
was
Okay.
bigger.
Okay. So that would,
I did write a recommendation in there
mhm.
for nonprofits, as long as the firemen are going to be there. It's totally up to you. Like she said, I have been giving an accommodation the last few years, but this is the first year now that we've added the truck bay onto that.
And that's where the difference in cost
And that's
comes
where
from
the
last
difference
year's.
in cost is.
It's more space.
Just to clarify, we've always had the truck bay.
Yeah.
You've always had
Yes,
it,
but
but
they didn't have a charge for it
Correct.
before.
Yep.
I just wanted to clarify, like, we've used
We,
those spaces.
we've changed the policy when we realized the manpower to go there to move the equipment,
Okay.
so we were trying to cover the cost, I don't have a problem with it. The only thing I would recommend is the fire relief if they're gonna sell alcohol at that they would have to designate part of that money to help offset the utilities, which,
cost, sure.
if they're benefiting it and they want to benefit, which everybody wants to benefit, the nonprofits, I get, but maybe they can offset part of that utility on our
Sure.
bill, because, they got where we come up with, how much, I don't know, but I mean, I just think that would be fair.
So by charging nonprofits or anybody who wants to use the fire hall, by charging them more, is that to pay for the utilities? So
Well,
that you won't have to dig into the Relief Association?
Well, the difference in charge is that the bay wasn't being charged for previously. And so the fire department came to us and said, well, we've got these folks who are using the bay now, and there's all this extra related cost. So earlier this year, the council made that change because, there's a difference between like if I have a birthday party on the smaller part of the building versus using the whole building. And I think the catalyst was actually was it the dance for the kids? Wasn't it the after prom thing?
yeah.
That came up in February because they had asked about that, and so that's when the council looked at making the change.
But I know part of the fire department too was they got to man at least two people, if not three, and they got to fire up every vehicle, pull it out. So, we're just trying to cover the cost of the fuel for that, the wear and tear on equipment, the loss of the air conditioning or the heating that's in the bay when they pull out. So we were not trying to make
I
any,
think the benefit to that, though, is they're making a ton of money
Right.
off the people we're bringing there for the event.
Yeah.
Like, that would be my challenge to that increase in cost, is that they're making that up of having that opportunity.
but the utilities are paid by the city
Right.
and not
I
by,
don't know how you
Yeah.
guys split the benefits of the alcohol.
yeah, they're a department of the city, so all bills are paid by the city tax.
But I think that's a good point you bring
But
up
if,
about having relief maybe subsidize
subsidize some of the
some of
cost,
the profit they're making out.
then it works for everybody. Because then, the fire department wants to be there. We want the nonprofits there, and we want to make sure that we're not putting the burden on all taxpayers. So if they if they can offset, how much, I don't know, so.
Whether you're a nonprofit or not, we're charging the same fee. Correct? Yeah.
Right now.
So we're not trying,
present.
yeah, at present, yeah, we're not trying to make it harder for one group. or
No,
another to come
no.
in.
Yeah.
So it went from 0.5% you were paying before, based on what you said about 45,000 you made 2 years ago?
2 years ago it was 40,000. Last 2014 or 2024 was 49, and this year our net profit was just over 55,000.
But they were paying $250 for rent.
So
Now it's
250,
and now it would be
250 on
7.
45,000 is less than 0.5%.
Right.
Yeah, but now if it's 750 even on 45,000, it's 1.6% of the overall.
So I don't know if we could.
Well, we certainly communicate with the Fire Relief Association.
Yeah.
And obviously take the comments under consideration. I mean, the issue is, does the council want to create a nonprofit charge? Which would be something we could consider too. I mean, the argument in the past has been, well, you have to treat everybody equally, and that's up to you as a council. Like, do you make special allowances for nonprofits? I don't.
We have talked
Right.
about
You guys can
that.
talk about, but
Okay.
I don't see a problem if we have local nonprofits from Casson and Manorville. I think that's fair.
So I think we'll put this back to more discussion and bring it back at the next meeting,
sounds good.
and then we'll talk to the fire relief. So,
Yeah, get them involved in that.
yeah.
Becky, when do you have to pay that by?
Well, I don't need a deposit, thanks to Linda. So then we typically just drop off a check,
Okay.
like when I come to pick up, the keys we've paid, or Bob will
Oh, yeah.
drop a check in the mail.
Yeah, I just want to make sure you didn't have to pay like in the next month. Where
No.
we,
Both
No.
of their events
Yeah.
Yep.
have been tentatively blocked off.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have some time to talk about this and find a good solution to work with our fire department too and see
Yeah.
what we can do.
Yep. Yeah, that's why I wanted to come early enough so that we could.
Yeah.
I've got some opinions. I don't like the idea of making exceptions. I'd rather have us stick to the same policy for everybody. I get what you're saying, that we want to have the benefit there for local stuff, but as soon as we start like making our exception more and more specific, we now have to take the time to verify that people meet those exception requirements. And I'd rather just not do that. However, if, like this mentioned, if the fire department is choosing to be there for their own benefit, if they want to chip in or pay the fee in place of whoever wants to rent the hall, that seems fine for me.
And
Like,
just to clarify, the Relief Association.
Yeah, that's
So
a different.
clear, like,
Yeah.
that's the one that's actually earning the revenue off of the event, not the fire
Not the
department per
fire
se. So,
yes, I understand.
no, I just want to be for the record. you know.
Yep. The Relief Association, if they're benefiting from like joining this event and they want to chip in or pay for the fee because they're basically getting somebody else is creating an event and they're there to assist and also gain some advantage for themselves, I don't see a problem with that. But I don't really like the idea of starting to like carve out exceptions and then okay, is this nonprofit, is it really local, is it not local, and if we just do a blanket waiver for all nonprofits, then that's just subsidizing any nonprofit, which doesn't necessarily mean it's a good charity that we want the taxpayers to be subsidizing. So, and then I don't want to get into looking at everybody's charity and what they're doing and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's kind of what I'm thinking.
So should we put this on the agenda for August?
Yeah.
To have a discussion on?
Yep.
And we'll try and get some of that information. We can get some costs from the fire department and see what the Relief Association's, input is. Linda did a good job. She did put that together, that memo and some thoughts she had, because she's been dealing with some of this the last little bit. And we'll try and do some follow-up in August. That sounds good.
Do we need to officially table that then? Because it says request for council action, right?
Yeah, I think if you want to table it, you can. Otherwise, I think we can take it under consideration for the next meeting.
Okay. Up next, we have Roberta with the Blaine Halverson Memorial.
Hi, so I'm pretty much here for the same reason Becky is. We are a local nonprofit based out of Casson. If you want to know about BHM, I'll tell you a little bit about it, but otherwise, it's again, same with the fire hall price. With the comment about the exception, we are a small community, as we all know, and the fire hall is the only place in Dodge County where it's big enough for us to have an event. Otherwise, we are looking elsewhere. A year and a half ago, we had an event we hired the dueling pianos, and they came and we had our event free of charge at the VFW in Rochester, and it was great. We made a ton of money. Do I expect us to get to the fire hall free of charge? Absolutely not. But 100% of our money raised goes to veterans. Veterans in crisis, canine dogs, service dogs. We provide furnaces for veterans if they need them. We bought 4 of them so far, working on the 5th one, all in a matter of 5 years. And so for us, being nonprofits, to give up $750, or for us it'd be $400 to $600, depending on if we want both rooms at the fire hall, that's just kind of a big chunk of change that is not going into our community. So I guess I'm in the same boat as Becky. So. Any questions about what we do, or other than veteran care?
I'm familiar with
Yeah,
what you
same.
do. Does anybody else?
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will discuss that one also at our August, because it'll all be under one lump sum,
Right.
so. Okay, now we have Bill and Trevor Straum with Festival in the Park.
I'm Trevor Strummy, and this is my dad, Bill. We are just volunteers on the Festival in the Park Committee. That's coming up August 7th, 8th, and 9th. We just wanted to come today. We got out of this practice of coming to City Council when Chris McKern became mayor, and he just gave you all the lovely updates. And since he has stepped back from the committee and things like that, we just thought that we needed to get back in front of you guys. One, give you just some updates of some of the new things that we have coming this year. Kratos training center here in town. Albert has done his strongman competition before last September, and he's actually doing that in the park. So we're hopefully going to bring in some more people with that, and a different crowd. Hopefully people who will stop at the food vendors and bring in more money there. We've had a couple of great community members step up and have donated a little bit extra money this year for the belly flop contest, upping that because, again, I think over the years some of these have kind of fallen off a little bit, so hopefully we can get more belly floppers there. But ultimately we just want to come and continue to thank you guys for the support, the use of the park, and again, the resolutions and just the different teams that help us in city departments. So first and foremost, we want to say thank you for all the support that as City Council and as the City of Casson that give us.
We also want to talk about, really appreciate what Ashley does for us, keeping our finances in order and in check for us. And without her and running the things through her, we'd be kind of lost. So also, our fire department, we'd like to give a shout out to our fire department. 2 years ago, we had a nasty storm come in at Friday about 8:30. They were the ones who helped us. They were already up there with some of their equipment showing the kids, and they were actually up there to help us clear the park. We actually worked with a couple of the captains, and if we have those issues again, that they would help us get the park cleared of people. So we have a process in place for that. So our kickballers aren't playing kickball under the lights when the storm's coming. So also appreciate the help of our police department and the police reserves that have come and helped us. They have been a tremendous asset for us, and we do appreciate that, as well as our Parks Board. Our Parks Board, I was on a Parks Board 25, 30 years ago, and what the land that they have to manage now and control has increased, and the amount of time and effort that they put into it. We appreciate that as parents and grandparents, but we also appreciate that as community members on this committee, because we have a fantastic park up there at Veterans Park that's in top-notch shape beforehand, and you can't tell that anything was run through that park the day after we're done. They did such a fabulous job. So we want to thank you ahead of time, but we also want to thank, also, as Trevor talked about belly flop, anyone can belly flop. So I was looking at the mayor.
Yeah.
But
I did my turn already.
But we do appreciate everything that that the city does for us. Also, the financial gift that the city gives to us for this event. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right. A couple items under mayor's report. August 19th is our next meeting. 5 p.m. We'll have a work session with Mike Bubani before our 6 o'clock meeting. And if people get a chance, the fair's going on right now, and the pool is offering dollar days during the fair to get some people a little bit of break from the heat when they're at the fair. So,
It was busy today.
yes.
The pool is not as cold as it was.
No, but I bet it feels good. All right. Public forum, I had no cards. Public hearing. So we'll call a public hearing for the sidewalk extension assessment.
Sure. This is something we've discussed a couple of times and taken direction from council. So including your package, you've got information related to the those sidewalk extensions. You can take a look and see if you have any questions on that. Otherwise, we would do a public hearing, and then we would plan on having a second hearing, at another meeting probably in September to finalize that.
Before we start,
Sure.
the one on 7th Street sold, so that one would come off of this?
That one would come off, and I have adjusted and gotten another quote.
That's got
So
you have the new estimate in there, I think.
And I have
on
the,
it.
Okay.
Hold on.
It says new estimate.
It's
yeah.
sold,
Okay.
but did they get a permit to build?
Yes, I think, Ian, where are they at with that?
Oh, well, they haven't applied for a building permit yet, but
You do have the spec for what they're looking at, though.
yeah, yep.
So,
and we had the purchase agreement from the lady who's selling it to them that states in there that they will put sidewalk in.
yeah.
With a
And
time frame?
usually you give them that year when they sell
Well,
a
it's
lot.
usually after the house is built.
Sure. Yeah, okay. It almost sounds like they might be trying to end around the sidewalk thing. I just want to make
I
sure
don't think so.
that we're confident that they're going to build a house and put in the sidewalk.
They've got,
I mean, they have relayed the building that they're expecting. I mean, they did go run through Ian with
Yeah.
getting a check off on what that would, if it would fit the lot. So we do feel relatively confident.
Okay.
That's always, you're not wrong. There's always that possibility that it, I think at this time, we'd prefer not to install that one if they're going to install it themselves.
Yeah.
Right. And if they're going to build,
Right, they're going to wreck it if they build it.
get
then, too.
destroyed.
Yeah,
so then it would just be the 2 properties. All right.
that's right.
So we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Sir, anyone would like to come forth, please come to the podium, state your name and address.
Hello, my name's Bruce Bigelow, and my wife Ramona and I are Casson residents. We bought and built a home in extreme northwest Casson in 2020. And then in, I think it was 2022, 2 years later, the lot next to us on the west was vacant yet, so we decided to buy that, and we found out who owned it and bought it. And we decided to invest some of our savings, and we made a meditation garden. I don't know if any of you have heard of it or been out there to see it at all, but we're kind of proud of what we did with it, and we opened it up to the public, and we even had our pastor from our church dedicate it and everything, and we put a gazebo out there, and we have a storage shed, and then just basically a lot of trees mostly, and a nice pleasant place for anyone that wanted to come out and meditate or pray or just be alone and contemplate any issues that they might have. So that's kind of what it has been happening out there ever since then, and we've really enjoyed having people come and visit it. But we've already put so much into the property with the trees and the gazebo, and we really don't want to have to come up with, especially $12,000 for 122 feet of sidewalk. Basically, the property, it hasn't got any home on it at this point, and it doesn't. The sidewalk, if it were to be built there, it doesn't take you anywhere except into a bean field, and we certainly would realize that we have to put a sidewalk there once they develop it to the north of us, but right now it's just a real short stub. No one's ever complained to us that they wanted to walk up to the bean field and back. It's, like I said, it's really short, and I would ask if we could have a delay to putting the sidewalk on until there's a need for it there, when eventually probably somebody will buy some of that farmland to the north of us, and this, then I can see where, if the road is continued, we definitely would have to put a sidewalk there, but we don't want to do that if we don't have to, and like I said, we don't want to put extra into it if we could talk you into delaying until there's, what we see anyway, as more of a need to actually put the sidewalk there. So that's kind of why I'm here, and asking if you would be willing to delay it until there's a real need for it there. It's, if anybody needed to walk down that way, there's the road is right there too. And I realized the guy on the other side, when he built his house, he did put a sidewalk on his side of the street, so there is one there now. But I didn't realize, that all the other properties in town that were grandfathered in that don't have sidewalks, and so I apologize for not reacting to the previous notices that we got from you. But that's what I'm asking, I guess, is if it could be delayed until there's a real need there. And I'm not sure how open you are to that, but if you can't delay that, I would request also to try to find somebody to do it cheaper than I've already talked to a couple of people that I could, do it for less money than what the sheet said. It was 12,000 something for it. But does anybody have any questions for me on? I do have there was an article in the paper about our meditation garden, if anybody wanted to see that or needed to see where it's at, but we're extreme northwest Casson, right on the edge of Casson, next to the gravel road, Gun Club Road, I guess everybody calls it.
I live just 7 houses down from you. We're the White House Rambler. Down, you go east. So
East, straight down on 12th?
Yep. We're the White Rambler on the corner there.
Okay.
The Blue House to the west of me, on the other side of the road, they did not have sidewalk, much like you did not have sidewalk on that lot. But they did add it in when we originally asked them to. So they did, even though it's a sidewalk to nowhere, I have one too, I have a sidewalk to nowhere. All of the neighbors that have dead-end spots have sidewalks to nowhere in that area. I know it's frustrating, but it's part of our long-term plan was to have sidewalks in all those areas. And when we built, we knew that, so we added it in, even though I basically, again, it's going to nowhere. It's going to Snow's Farm, but it was that area required it, and then houses that didn't follow that, we did ask them to eventually do it, and they did. One of our neighbors did that.
Yeah.
He had someone else do it on his own, so it cost less. Yes.
Yeah.
That was 2 years.
Your sidewalk you built when you built the house on it, though, right?
Yeah,
But
we did.
This lot doesn't have a house on it.
And we've had a couple houses that families that bought extra lots in areas that had to have sidewalk, and then did put sidewalk in eventually in Northwest, close to us as well.
Yeah. Well, I guess I would just need, if you do have to have it done, could I have a little bit more time to get a friend of mine that does sidewalks and stuff, or has done sidewalks.
What sort of timeline are you thinking?
Well, he said it'd be about a month before he could get to it. The guy that I have in mind to do it, he's quoted me about half of what this cost would be.
we can close the public hearing and have discussion if you want to. If there's anybody else who wants to talk, but I mean, I think that's something we can talk about for sure.
All right. Well, is there anybody else that would like to come up for our public hearing? Okay. Seeing none, I will close our public hearing, and now we can have our discussion. So,
Obviously, our perspective is we do want these to, and it's not just that we want to. I mean, it's ADA requirements require it. So it isn't a question of if, it's a question of when. That's up to the council, your direction, close these gaps. We've got only a few left. That's why we're having the public hearing tonight. And I don't know, I don't want to speak for Linda or for Ian, but, if the resident can get it fixed, we've given that option to everybody, and we've had a number of people who've either done it themselves or they've hired their own contractor, and I'm certainly open to that. If they can find something cheaper, let us know the contractor, because we would love to know your contractor if we can get a better price, because it is not easy to get, and we recognize that, and that's one of the reasons. This has been a 5-year process. Council members remember we started this back in 2021, so it has been a long time trying to get all these gaps filled. So I personally don't have an issue with, if it's another month. I think it's okay with me. But it's certainly up to the council and how you guys feel. We want to get it done. I think that's important. So just following the direction of the council members, what you've told us in the past. So
The balance for me is hard because we had several people that were told 4 years ago, 5 years ago, hey, you need to do this. And they did take on that hardship to pay for it, and they got it done. And some didn't. So now, like one of the facilities that we're looking at on this it's just taken so long. Is this something that if someone in the future, like when we talk about taxes, when we do, how do I want to say this? I want to say it the right way. We have, when someone, I think about, yes. Is this something that would qualify for that?
it would, absolutely.
So even if we use our own crew that we've looked at, it's $12,000, could a family that can't afford it, or a veteran, or whatever qualifications are, they could have filed for that waiver?
Yeah, well, the petition waiver is just a process where they're asking us to pay for it up front and then assess it to their property taxes.
Yeah.
Which is how this would probably work process-wise for Mr. Bigelow's home.
Yeah.
So it's not that he's going to be expected to pay it all at once.
Yeah.
It would be over a period of time, similar to our other street projects assessments that we do over a 15-year period. That could be figured out with that petition waiver. You could set different time periods. If it was a smaller amount, you probably wouldn't want to go 15 years. You'd go 5 years or something like that, because your interest would accrue. But yeah, that's always available for residents. We've used it in the past for, I know we've used it for sump pumps. Had a couple of people do that. We've had some of the sewer repairs. Some people have used that before, where we've taken that number from the contractor they've hired. We paid that contractor directly and that sort of thing. So yeah, that would be available. Yeah.
Okay.
This concrete company isn't coming tomorrow either, so if he only needed a month, it's gonna be about the same timeline.
I mean, if the goal is to get the job done, then I certainly don't have an issue with Mr. Bigelow contacting someone else to give him a bid, as long as we can see the progress moving forward so that everyone is in compliance.
Okay with that as well.
Yeah, I would be good with that. If it saves him some money, I think it does need to be done sooner than later.
Yeah, I mean, so our second hearing would be in September. So I think, our goal would be, because at that point in time, what we could do is the resolution that we're looking at approving tonight would include those names on that list. And if there's no action at that time, I think you would proceed. You'd say, well, we need to get it done. If there is action before that time period, then you could pull those off, just like we would if we were changing a street assessment. Somebody came back and said, oh, my water's in 7th instead of on Main, what's being done. So I think, I think it's up to council what kind of timeline you want to give him. He's asking for a month. Do you give him until the 19th of our next council meeting to see if there's any progress? And then at that point in time, if there isn't, then we proceed. Otherwise, and I don't know what the date is for that, but we'll certainly be in contact with Comet regarding that. So, yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable with it. I think at the staff level, we just want to get these filled. I mean, it's the directive that was given. It's an ADA compliance plan. The federal government said you have to have ADA compliant properties. And we also know that development is coming to that northwest area. So
Sooner or later.
It's up to the council, but I think it's certainly something we could handle here.
So would you look for a motion or
well, I think
guidance or what?
We'll be looking for tonight would be to we have the I think we have the resolution there, don't we? You have a resolution for him, Linda?
I don't think there was. You said
Okay.
we didn't need a resolution
Okay.
until the final.
Sure.
number.
So I mean, and you've given us direction, you've had the hearing now, you know, if you want to give them a timeline, you know, I guess set that date. And like I said, we have our next meeting on the 19th. I think that would probably work pretty well in line with what we're talking about. At that point in time, we can get an update from Mr. Bigelow on what his schedule is and if it's going to work for him or not in terms of his contractor. And if it does, then we can have that resolution we approve in September, eliminating his assessment in his project.
Okay. All right. So we will move forward, allowing him to check for his contractor and come back by August 19th with a deadline of when he could put it in. So that way we can stay up to date with ADA and move forward with our, so.
All right. It's okay then for me to put it in before that?
Yes, yes.
Please do.
Yep.
Your
And
garden
then-
does look very nice.
And then if, by chance, if your contractor would like to reach out to the city just for future jobs, we're more than welcome to talk to him.
I'll tell him.
All right. Thank you. All right, so committee report, there's none. Old business.
You've got your AI compliance policy there, bringing it back as an old business, just to see if there's any comments from anyone on that. If there aren't any comments, at some point in time, I would like to get this approved and promulgated to staff, because we do want to make sure that they're, you know, staff will be starting to use AI more, and I want to make sure they have the guidance they need.
Has anybody got any concerns or questions on the policy? All right, hearing none, I would take a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the policy for AI.
Thank you, Ryan. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Sheldon. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Up next, new business rental ordinance.
So I had received some emails. I think some council members had received some as well. So included in there, we do have that email chain from, looks like a Mr. Peck. And the mayor had talked to him a little bit, I think, Dan, you did. Basically saying, you know, we'll bring this to council. Periodically, we do get complaints about the rental ordinance and enforcement and compliance in the city, mostly from renters, but sometimes from landowners too. On the other side of things, they complain about their tenants. And that sort of process. But so, you know, I know a couple of years ago we had looked at a couple of these. We just wanted to put it in front of you again. And you know, you've got the current ordinance that we have for rental housing. You've got two other ordinances from relatively similar sized communities in Minnesota that are somewhat recent. Basically, just, you know, every city does it a little differently. And the question is, how hard and how involved do you want the city to become? I know when Chris was mayor, you know, he had heard from a lot of landlords that they were not necessarily interested in seeing a larger degree of cost related to some of the maintenance with some of the properties. And so he felt like where we were at with our ordinance was appropriate. It's up to you as a council whether you'd like to take any changes. This is informational. We you know, I think Danny spoke to the resident, or you saw an email from him and you wanted to make sure that people were apprised of it. So
Yeah, we were just emailed back and forth a little bit, is all it was. He had some concerns, and I reached out to you.
I mean, we have a kind of the tough part about it, and Ian can talk about this too, is that there's certain things that we handle at City Hall. For example, you know, he gets a complaint about grass, weeds, that sort of thing. We handle that, and usually we work with Public Works. You know, he sends out a letter about long grass or weeds in someone's yard. He gives them 10 days or 2 weeks from receipt of the letter. So he says, okay, today's the 5th of August. You need to have this cleaned up by the 15th. And at that point in time, if it's still not cleaned up, he goes and checks it. If it's not, then he communicates with Public Works, and they go out and mow it, and then we send a bill to the resident. So there's those kind of complaints, and there's the property ones, which are dealt with primarily through the police department. You know, with Amy over there, she kind of does the licensing for landlords, and to a certain extent, the fire department, with Joe kind of, you know, being sort of a point person for some of the, on the fire side of it at least, some of the compliance issues. But to a certain degree, those, you know, some of the properties kind of fall in that gap where we don't have a direct mechanism, like we don't have a building inspector that we have on staff who just looks at rental properties. You know, we have one for new permitting. You know, obviously CMS does the new permitting and they do that kind of stuff, but a lot of cities do it differently. I know in the previous community I worked in, we had employee who was building inspector, he also worked at the sewer plant, sort of a sideline for him. But that would, we would send him out and he would look at houses for rental compliance too. And then they actually have a community service officer now who works at the police department in that town. But anyway, a lot of talking for me, and it's hot outside, so I will shut up. And if there's any questions, I guess let me know, but it's just something that we've had occasionally people, do bring it up to us, so.
I mean, speaking as a landlord, I can see both sides of this. I mean, I have a house, not here, in Atlanta that my property manager was lying to me about for 10 years. And when the tenant finally had enough and moved out, that's when I found out how bad it really was. So would I have appreciated having to go through some of this? Yeah, actually, I would have. I can also see it from the tenant's perspective, however, when it is going to be something that potentially increases the rent in a town where we already have some relatively high rents. But from a protecting the tenant standpoint, some of those ordinances weren't too bad. Some of them were a little onerous, in my opinion, the samples that were provided here. I don't think that it's a bad idea to consider this, but like you said, how do we enforce it? And that, I don't know the answer to that.
Well, and enforcing it, but then now there comes a fee, because you're going to have to pay.
I know.
And then,
To have an inspection done.
yep,
And
so
I
then that
know
goes on to the landlord, which then they turn and pass on
I
to
know.
the tenant. So, yeah, that's kind of a two-edged
But
sword.
if
I
you
know.
have tenants living in conditions as described in this letter,
Yes.
you have what sounds like a pretty unsafe living condition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
So-
we just want to get it in your hands tonight. If you have thoughts about it, we'll bring it back as another discussion point at a later meeting here this year. But, always it's kind of that push and pull, factor for sure, so.
and how many rental properties do we have in town, if you could find that out by the,
Properties or units?
Landlords, maybe? I think
landlords?
we
Yeah.
If you could figure that out by
Maybe check
the,
with Amy and see
I'll
what she's
let
got
you know,
registered.
yeah.
Because I'm guessing there are probably some unregistered units too, I would imagine, so.
Yeah.
because if we're gonna, if we do look at changing it, then we need to get everybody registered, and otherwise it ain't gonna work. So if we
We'd love
could,
to get input from both the tenants and from the
The land-
landlords, see
yes.
what they see as
Right.
an issue, so.
because I think that'll help us too. So, all right, we'll bring that back for some more discussions. Okay, next we have request for the auditor.
This is informational for you. Sarah's worked on this. I really appreciate it. We completed the contract for our 3-year contract we had with Cohen Resnick now, previously was Smith Schaefer. So we are going out for audits. How many did you send it to, Sarah? Was it 8? 8. So I think she's gotten maybe 1 or 2 responses so far. We gave them about a month to get back to us, so we expect to see that information back on August 10th, and then we'll be evaluating those, and then in August, we'll hopefully be able to bring that to you so you can select a new vendor for the audit for 2027. Well, 26, completed in 27.
And they're fairly local? I mean, Rochester,
There's a couple in the cities.
City?
but,
Okay.
Yeah, otherwise Mankato and Rochester, and pretty local.
so, yeah, right in the realm.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Up next, you get your Casson Fire Department relief bylaws update.
And I won't speak to this. I will let Dan and Linda, because they are the members who go to the Relief Association meetings. You do have a red line copy there, and you've got a summary of the proposed changes. I think a big gist of what I read when I read through it was the changes from firefighter to the member utilization, the language, because of the change to having just medical-only members, so.
They did that. There was updates, excuse me, to what their current officers or jobs description were, and because they were way out of date. So they've been working on updating those. That was part of the bylaw, and they're in the bylaws, so they needed to update the bylaws. And kind of going through it with them a little bit, they realized that they had been doing some of this stuff and didn't realize that they didn't update the bylaws to match. So it's kind of been, so it seems like a lot, but I think a lot of it's just been kind of things they've changed, and they're just trying to update it and get it to match everything. And they did a little bit of changing on the compensation for the Fire Relief. Board positions. They've kind of been that price. What did they say, Linda? For how many years?
Oh, it's been a lot of years.
A lot of years.
Probably 15.
15, yeah.
Before since they've updated their fees, or what they pay the officers.
And they started realizing, they kind of went through it and realized, like, the president does this many hours a month, but like the treasurer does a lot of more hours, and the secretary does. So they kind of based it off of that is where they come up with their price. And there was quite the discussion on coming to that price. So, but they just thought now was the time as they're updating their bylaws to update that. So if there's any questions anybody had on that, like I say, as Tim.
And some stuff about the uniforms too.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Class A's.
Yeah, they will compensate their members a one-time per year dry cleaning. It's their fire relief, and none of that money comes out of the fire department. So
And then if it's needed, which they will decide, if somebody has wrecked their shoes, or, some people wear their uniforms way more often than the other ones do. Some only wear them once a year, but some are wearing them to all these different events and everything. So I know that, some people's shoes are wearing out. So it's replacing those as needed and as approved.
Right.
you will see there's three trustee, for the board, trustee 7, trustee 8, and trustee 9. Trustee number 7 is fire chief. There's and then the other 2 are appointed by the mayor. Before, it used to say it was the mayor, but they've got it in there stating that it can be somebody appointed by the mayor. Just,
That's a good option.
yeah, in case else. And the fire chief and the other 2 appointees get no compensation for being on the board. They're just on there as a vote, but they're a voting member. But because their job is to be there and listen, and Linda's on the board. She's been on that for many years. But she usually comes with most of the knowledge of when they're asking stuff for the city. So, yeah. But other than that, I don't know if anybody's got any questions, or if not, I guess I would take a motion to approve the Casson Fire Relief bylaw changes.
I'll make the motion to approve the new bylaw changes.
Thank you, Ryan. Do we have a second?
Second that.
Thank you, Sheldon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you, everybody. We'll let them know that. And then up next, they have a quote for some fire department equipment. They are looking at some new battery-operated extrication equipment. Right now they have one hydraulic unit. And my request to them, and I still haven't received, and I don't know if they forgot, I wanted to know how often they use that equipment. So I'd still like to see that before. And the other thing is, too, if you look at it, they have $30,000 a year for
40,000.
$40,000 a year for equipment budget, and now they have a gambling fund through the Fire Relief Association that they donate their profits back to the fire. So I would like to see maybe if they, between their budget and that, if they could come up with it. But I would like to know how often they use it. I do understand the reasoning for this, because they would like to get 2 sets eventually, so they have them readily accessible, and they're interchangeable with your standard Milwaukee 18-volt battery. I was getting some more information on it, so it's actually handy that way. So it's more convenience, which saves time, which can save lives. So I understand, but I'd like to get a little more information from them. I don't know what your input is from the rest of the council.
I think if you have questions about it, we probably should ask Joe to come and talk about it.
Does the police department have anything similar?
Yes. Or equipment-wise?
Yeah.
I didn't know if you're leaning towards
Yeah.
like a
Yeah, that's me again. I
Yeah.
do have some upcoming costs, but
No, do you have something similar tool-wise?
You don't use an extra dick.
we don't do education.
You'll leave that to the fire departments. Because they got the personal property, equipment to be in that area.
I didn't know if it could be a shared expense or not something. They could both use it, but
And it would always be at the fire hall, and it would probably be more of an access thing, so it's
Yeah.
probably easier if the first responder has it or whatnot.
Yeah, because they would put one, they'd like to have 2 units, the way he talked. They'd like to put one in that new truck they just bought, because that one would be the truck that they would roll to an accident, because it's,
How has their gambling profits been in the last month or two? Have they provided anything to us?
they always provide their numbers.
They actually just made a donation of $25,000
In dollars,
at the end of June
Yeah.
to the fire department.
yes.
So it's going well then.
Yeah, and there's guidelines of how they have to.
What they can spend it on and can't, and
So they've donated it back to the fire department, and then the fire department will use it for tools
yeah, okay.
and equipment.
Yep.
But they didn't have an exact list of what they were spending it on. But when it comes forth for us to approve, we will see it. So, all right, maybe if Joe can reach.
Joe can attend.
Yeah, I'd just like to know how often they use it.
Sure.
And a
Well,
little-
I mean, if that's the only question that comes up, then we can reach out to him and see.
Yeah, I don't know if
Give us that information.
and I know he's looking at 2 of them, and I know he was hoping to take some of the money out of the fire truck that we just recently sold, but we just bought him one, and we took that money out of our capital improvement fund, and I'd like to take that money from the sale of that and put it back in it so we can keep buying equipment for the city. Because we have other departments that we're relying on that money also. So I know they kind of wanted us to earmark it, but
I mean,
so
if
far.
they've got a budget for equipment and they're going to use that budget on these tools, then
I mean,
seems
the
fine to
real
me.
request at the end of the time would be to exceed their budget line item.
Yeah,
I don't know about that. I'm not on board with that.
Yeah.
because this would be
Because if we give them $40,000,
$55,000 just for this one set.
yeah,
And their tooling budget right now is 40,000.
right. Well, yeah, I don't know if the one I got is up to date, but I was seeing 2026 budget was 50,000 for other equipment, and then I see another one here for small tools of 20,000. So
And this is not the small tools one. Yeah.
I
And
mean,
maybe the one you don't
they're
have
hand
budgeted,
operated, but if they chose to use the combination of those 2 items to pay for all 3 of these items, I'd be okay with that. But I'm not on board with going above and beyond what they've already been allotted.
So yeah, I'll reach out to them definitely and ask them
Yeah.
how often they use it, and then ask them where they are on their budget line.
Right, and I think we actually included in the packet, you can see the year-to-date expenses. That report's under I-2. There's a finance report and the year-to-date. I know we're jumping ahead a little bit.
Okay.
But I did want to include that, so, because that was the question I asked Sarah was, what have they spent in their capital so far this year? Because the only thought I had was if the council did authorize them to exceed that line item, what I would choose to do is I would take that out of their next year's budget. So it'd be like they'd be purchasing it early, and I feel like that's a fair way to do it,
Cash
because at the end of the
advance.
year, if they don't spend that budget, it doesn't roll over, but it does go into the general fund balance. So to me, if we were going to exceed it by 15,000, I would say, okay, well, next year we're going to reduce it from 40 down to 25. And that way you're accounting for it. It's a little bit like what we did with the modular that we bought for the park system. We exceeded that line item, but then we accounted for it the next year.
Sure.
Right, we do have one, though.
Yes, this is an
this would be
extra. This is
above
not,
and-
they do have one, so it's not and it would be in addition to what's currently being used. And Joe's been very upfront, the one they have works. It's not that it doesn't work, it's just they like to get a new model.
Yeah,
Which
it's-
I understand.
Because then they don't have to bring along the hydraulic pump and the
Right, it's-
hoses.
It's a lot more, I use a lot of
It's
Milwaukee
lighter,
tools.
it's user-friendly,
Oh, man, it's, no cords, no hoses.
faster.
It's easily accessible to everything. You're not dragging anything around. I can see the benefit in it, 100%. But timing, is that something that we wait on, means we have one. It's not like we're stuck without a tool.
Yeah, and I'd love to see that their gambling, that the fire relief keeps going well, 'cause their donations are going to go back
to the fire department, which is
Yeah.
going to help offset some of the
Yeah,
costs,
it's not a problem at
which
all.
was the ultimate goal of that.
That's a goal.
So,
Okay, well, I'll reach out to Joe and see what his usage is, and then we can bring it up once again at the next meeting.
yeah.
Sounds good.
And I do appreciate him getting that number, an exact number this time instead of an estimate last time. So,
Absolutely.
so now we know exactly what we're looking at. So, all right, we are on to administrator's report.
Sure. Well, I'll just highlight those couple things that we did skip ahead to. So you do have your monthly financial cash and investment summary there. We just made our yearly transfers. Sarah has requested, once we complete that audit, we use those numbers to send our actuals. So we take that money out of our current accounts here and we send it into investments. So some of that money especially from the utilities that we hold here locally, and once we have that actual number, we're able to kind of send it over to the 3M fund, or 4M fund, sorry, 3M. That's the tape, not the fund. What am I doing there? Once again, you also have year-to-date expenses, so this is, kind of up to date for 6 months. So we have started scheduling budget meetings with the department heads. Those are scheduled for the last week of this month here. We're going to be meeting with them to go through their budget, and then Sarah's going to be prepping the ClearGov budget and also our Black Mountain, so that we'll have that meeting with Mr. Bubani. He kind of gives us that long-range financial plan, taking into account more of our projects, that he kind of looks at the big picture, and then we get down to the nuts and bolts with the department heads. And so it's a perfect time for us to be talking about these potential expenses for next year. My report itself, I attended the APPA National Conference. I appreciate Compass for paying for it. I appreciate the city allowing me to go to that. Get an update there. It was very interesting. It was in Boston, which is a very interesting city, a lot of history there. The biggest takeaway for me is that costs are going to continue to go up, but I think we're on the right track with our battery storage. That was what pretty much everybody talked about was. And I saw today the federal government, FERC, which is the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, is going to be derating diesel generating units by about 30% in 2028. So if you are currently getting, say, 75% capacity rating on that, so it's like a 1 megawatt generator, right now they give you 750 kW credit. They say, okay, it's going to run at that percentage. They're looking at derating those out down to like 40 kW, which means that if you're a city that has a load of 10 megawatts that you have to potentially cover, like, as you know, we go to the markets, we buy capacity to cover our costs because we don't have the generation. Let's say Rochester. I was at Rochester earlier this year, or yesterday. They have 295 was their megawatts. That was their peak load yesterday. 295 megawatts, where our peak load is 15. So they don't have the capacity to meet their needs right now. So they're buying in the market. If their diesel gensets get derated even 30% more, it's going to be even more substantial, push those costs even higher. So I think for us, talking with Jared, we're going to continue to try and buy that battery storage to kind of fill that need as quickly as we possibly can, because it seems like that is going to be the best use of funds. Otherwise, I do have my meetings in there. It was a lot of good sessions, very interesting. It's always interesting to see what different people are doing throughout the country. A lot of it's the same. With the increase in the intermittent power sources, everyone's looking for, how are we going to do this? And a big discussion was about nuclear as a firm power that meets those energy criteria that some states have laid out, carbon-free. So nuclear kind of meets that goal, but so much of that stuff is 5-10 years out. It's in the intermediate time period. It's going to be a lot of costs related to that. So anyway, you can read through that. I guess if there's any questions anybody has on that. Otherwise, continue to have meetings here too. We have had a lot of meetings with different developers about a lot of different properties. So it's interesting to see stuff is still happening. And Ian's been very helpful with that, so I appreciate that too. So the residential market seems like it's going to be pretty strong for the next year or two at least, for sure. So, yes.
Do you know how we are doing on our panels and storage?
Well, so the small solar projects, I got an email today. They are staking for those. So the ones that are ground mounted, they're staking. The ones that are rooftop will be rooftop.
Mm-hmm.
So they expect those to start in the next 2 weeks. The larger project, we received most of the panels already. Those are actually in storage up at Public Works. They'll start in, and the battery, I think, is 13 weeks out.
Okay.
So I would expect probably early fall to see the installation start. Once they start, with the panels out by the sewer plant, they're just going to go. They're going to start hammering, they're going to go. So I don't want to expect once they actually start on that, it's actually going to take that long. The interconnect agreement with Excel, that is a little bit more difficult process. But in the meantime, we'll have that local resource for ourselves, even if it has to just offset our load. You know, Excel we have to still finish the interconnect with them. But so yeah, I'm hoping to be able to enter both the batteries and the solar into the MISO's capacity auction for next year. Like solar itself doesn't provide a lot of capacity, but the batteries will, and so that'll help with our costs for next year.
Okay.
Too, so.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Good question.
You also got a Sunwood Matter.
Oh, sure. Yeah, and this was we had to do a little research on this, receive this, and you can read through it. Dan's got a paper copy here. So it sounds like the folks that own Sunwood Manor, they've informed us that they're buying out their loan with the USDA, which, you know, in there it says anticipated date of termination is in August 1st of 27. And you can read through it yourself and take your own takeaway. My takeaway is that in the fullness of time, they are going to be moving away from an income fixed complex to a market rate. In here, they do talk about how for current residents, they're going to continue to accept waivers. They're not going to change rents, things like that. I would expect as those residents rotate out that they'll be increasing the rents, which hopefully means that they make some improvements to the facility. Because I know I've spoken with folks who say there definitely may be some concerns that if they're looking at market rate, they need to make some improvements for sure. So informational from them. I think it's a state requirement. They send us these letters. First time we'd actually seen that. So.
All right. Thank you.
Do we have any recourse should they not continue to honor the obligations to the existing tenants or conditions or?
You know, I guess that would depend on how involved the council would want to get into it. I mean, it would become a legal question. You know, so if we received a complaint from a tenant saying I was kicked out or something like that, or they're not accepting it, I would have to talk with the city attorney, but I would imagine that would be a larger legal debate. You know, in terms of like recourse, we don't really have any control over it. If someone brought us, just like this tenant who had a complaint about the maintenance, you know, there's a certain amount we can do, but, you know, I would say we'd probably get tied up in the legal pretty quickly, so.
Up next, engineers report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. 2 items tonight, should be pretty short. The first one is a trail connection grant. So I think in your council packet is the award letter and a figure. And I'll just jump to the figure there. You can see we were awarded the $250,000 that we applied to. I think this is our 3rd award, kind of we've applied about every other year. And then we also had a big federal project with our Safe Routes to School project. So been pretty successful in continuing to build these segments of trails. That is the maximum amount that we can be awarded. So we kind of fit our projects for that amount to kind of leverage our dollars as best we can. So what the project scope includes 2 sections of trail, one from our Aquatic Center, Veterans Memorial Parkway, going due north, timing into the Regan Edition, the Schramm Edition, which they're in the process of constructing that trail, which goes all the way to 16th Street, kind of the center part of 16th Street between the dump road and the roundabout. So that's going to kind of close that gap. So if you live in northeast Rochester, where at the high school, you could go right through the roundabout down 16th Street, then cut across 16th Street, come right in the backside. What's that?
Casson, you mean?
Yeah, what'd I say?
Rochester.
Could you throw
yeah.
that map up?
It's a long walk there, Brad.
Potentially can. We are actually talking about extending our 16th Street trail into Rochester, but some really high-end stuff with Rochester. So we'll see if that ever gets
A few
filled.
more grants.
Not for a while.
Yeah, a while. So yeah, that's another side conversation for maybe staff tomorrow about all the conversations there. But yeah, so then that would connect in. So you know, that would really provide a nice connector into our Veterans Memorial Park there. The second one is actually part of a project that we were kind of already planning and got some other funding for, specifically that housing fund money to extend water and sewer in the street to the west side of Maple Grove Cemetery there. We are planning on that. I think we got $500,000 for that project, which wasn't including the trail. We're not going to be able to cover the trail, so this $250,000 will help offset that trail that was planned to extend to the west there, to the west side of the cemetery and tie into the roads there, and that will extend from the commuter bus stop there, that the park and ride there that we just constructed the trail a couple of years ago there. So help close that gap and then serve not only Windsor Court, but also the cemetery and the future growth that we're going to see there at Windsor Court. So you can see that's all noted. So good news. I'm not sure if this is going to be a 27 or 28 project, but I think staff will work on that and see where it goes. Just wanted to note a couple things. We did get letters of support, so I just want to recognize the different agencies: Dodge County, ALS, which owns Windsor Court, Bigelow Homes, Cass and EDA, police chief, and KM Schools all provide us letter credits. So it's always good when you got a pile of letter credits in there in these applications that we found. So we've been ultra successful, so I think I'm going to obviously keep it on the radar for future stuff. So if there's trails that either the park board or the city sees to help close these gaps, I got some ideas. We've kind of built a lot out, but there's still some potential I see on here, and I know on the comp plan there were some areas that the citizens were interested in that we could potentially incorporate, maybe some larger projects that I got in mind. But we'll keep pushing along. But if anybody has it from the public or council, just let us know, and we'll look at including it. So that's all we had on that. I'll pause. Any questions, comments, concerns on that? Okay. One other note, since it is related and it's shown on there, we do note the on-road cycle track along the dump road is that county project that goes from on the north end, the Sunrise Sunset Trail. That is essentially removing parking along the west side of that road down to Lions Park to that trail there. That's going to be a couple weeks out. The county's going to be doing that, so it's going to get
Are
completed.
they thinking mid-August, or what's their date?
Yeah, I think they're a couple weeks out to start. That's a lot of concrete rehab, so they're going to be grinding on that concrete to the concrete road section from Main Street down to the roundabout at 57, and then they'll come in and stripe it later on, so it'll probably be later on this fall by the time they're done. Don't have an exact schedule. We're looking for that. The road's going to stay open, so I don't think it's going to be too impactful.
Good.
But that'll be wrapping up here this year, so we'll have that nice connection from Lions Park up to the Dodge County Trail and really close that gap that a lot of people use on the road. So that's all I just wanted to add since we were talking about it. No other questions, comments. I'll jump to the second item. All right, so no action tonight on that one. We are requesting action on the second item. That is to do with our lead service line replacement. This is kind of wrapping up a multi-year push from the federal level to ultimately remove lead and galvanized lead service lines across the country. Previous work that we've done just to get every kind of up to speed, we went through, did the reporting, eliminated a lot of the newer stuff off of our map, and then ultimately reported back to the state on how many that we had. And then we're kind of at the stage we are at now, which we applied for funding to ultimately replace them. So we were down to 20, and actually after our staff met, we're down to 19 properties that ultimately have galvanized services. We also have a fair amount of unknown ones that we don't know what they have that are not currently being funded, but the ones that we believe are galvanized are currently being funded. We were awarded that through the state. We'll have a formal agreement with the state and the city after our bids come in, and that's what we're asking you to do tonight, to review this plan, go out for bid. So we're not locked in anything yet, but ultimately if we move forward, we'll ultimately have an advertisement that go out. We'll bid it August 13th, and then in your August meeting we will have potential to award the contract and the completion date. We do have currently in June of 27. Now, on our end, we're concerned that contractor availability is going to be very difficult. We're throwing a lot of these out on the street. Ours are going out pretty early here, but we have a fair amount of other towns. Like there's 12 of our towns that we're working on, including the city of Winona, have hundreds of these. So it's going to be kind of a blip in the contractor availability. So we may end up pushing that out to late 27. But at the end of the day, the work needs to be completed in 27 is what the health department's telling us now with their funding. Now, if all the cities and engineering firms in Minnesota come back and say, we don't have any contractors, that'll be a discussion we'll have. But we'll work on that on our side of things. But ultimately, that would be the completion date. So what's in here? What are we ultimately looking at physically doing? Ultimately, the scope includes the city administrator and I are going to review a letter that's going to come from the city administrator, go to property owners with an agreement that's been reviewed by the city attorney that basically says we're going to limit our liability to ultimately replace a private water service on private property, potentially from the meter in the home all the way out to the street, but they have to agree to some terms so we can limit our liability and ultimately do perpetual maintenance of that service throughout time. So the attorney's reviewed that. Property owner is going to sign off on that. And then our contractor, as part of the plan in front of you tonight, they're going to go out, verify that it is galvanized, number one, before they do the work. They're going to pothole at those curb stops, verify it's galvanized there, and either pull a new line in to ultimately remove that galvanized line. Because we don't have any leads, but we do have some galvanized that still count. Either from the home out to the curb stop or the curb stop to the street. So we have that all worked into the plan here on what they actually need to replace to get that galvanized out of the water line. We'll pull in new lines, hook the meter back up in the home, restore everything, get that all hooked up, and then ultimately turn the water back on, right? And then if everything goes well, they have a new water service and all the galvanized out, and then we take them off the list, and our list of 19 goes to 0. And then we're in good shape, and I think it's going to help us long term for some reporting too that the state's going to require if we still have lead and galvanized. The unknowns is unknown. We don't know what we're going to do with those moving forward. There's been some talk of the state funding additional work for us to go out and try to find those unknowns, determine what they are to get them off the list. But there's a lot of money going into removing, the lead and galvanized service. I mean, there's up to like 20,000 a service across the entire country, across the state. So I mean, there's a lot of work going in here. So we'll see how far that money runs out. But I think we need to do this. This is a good thing, and the state's going to pay for it. So it is a federally funded mandate that the federal government has paid through the state. So that's what we're doing. I'll pause there, see if you have any questions, comments, concerns. But in your council packet is the resolution to approve the plans and advertisements for the bids.
So if I understand this right, you found no lead water lines in the city?
Correct. Yep. The only thing we found is galvanized, which a lot of the galvanized lines, as they come out of the house meter, there was lead at the point where it goes to the main. They call it the gooseneck. So they're still concerned about that lead there, which we didn't dig up at the road. We didn't verify that those galvanized are not connected via lead. So that's what the determination from the EPA has been, that they need to be replaced. And they treat them just like a lead. So it may not be lead, but lead and galvanized in their eyes is the exact same. So that's how we're moving forward.
So you're not just replacing that section, you're going to run all the way to the house?
Yep. Okay. That's been the direction from the EPA and what the scope of what we need to do. Now, if that was galvanized that ended at the curb stop, we'd only replace the curb stop to the street, and then we would not place, say, it was plastic. If a house is reconstructed, they may have gone back to that curb stop, put plastic or copper in that's acceptable, then we would not run that line all the way to the house. Okay. And our engineers we're uneasy whenever we don't know everything or our quantity, so we got some extra quantity in there. We know that quantity is going to fluctuate very significantly from what we have in here. But the way the agreement, the way I understand it's going to come forward is whatever the cost, as long as it's not over 20,000 a service, which we're thinking 15 is where we're going to be at. It's going to get covered. So we have a lot of contingency items in there too if we get into something that's unique. That we just, every house is different. It's just hard to quantify. You can see in there we do have little maps. I guess the maps aren't in the plan, but we do have little maps where we've pulled off some of that quantity. And we do have like hours for plumbers to hook the water meter back up, because that has to be done by a plumber, those sort of things. We have some contingencies item in there if we hit something that wasn't accounted for. So we've kind of covered ourselves, but what this final dollar amount is, I don't know what that's going to be, but I mean, that's been clear to the state that the state understands that they've given us a cap. If we're going to think we're going to go over the cap or we get bids, really high bids, then we're going to go back to the state and have a conversation. Other cities were awarded so much, and they just said, do whatever you guys can do, get as many done, and then when you hit your cap, just stop and we'll have to reevaluate. Fortunately for us, we had a low number. We're not over our cap that they capped each city, so we're in good shape there. So, yeah, it's a unique project, all new to us too. So I mean, bear with us. Like I kind of said the whole time, it's just we're kind of inventing stuff as we go. But luckily, there's been some other towns that have been a little progressive. Albert Lee's already been doing this, so we've talked to them on kind of how that's worked and adopted our plans and approach based on what they had. So same thing with the city of Rochester. So. But there's a lot going in, so.
All right. Is there any questions for Brandon? If not, I would take a motion to approve the resolution to go out for bids.
Make the motion to approve.
Motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mel. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? There you are, sir.
That's all I had tonight. Tower's up, so we just need some paint on it, so.
Any updates on 16th? On how that's going with the road?
I think they poured the southbound turn lane today, so they just got to pave that up, and then there'll be some restoration. So the deadline's by the time school gets out, so I think we're trending in that direction. So, yeah, should be good. Southwest, I think all the curbs down in southwest, so they're tolerancing rock, so I think we're going to be paving that pretty quickly. They raised some iron, the manholes and whatnot in front of like Casey's and that, so that's wrapping up too, so.
Good.
It's good because we got a lot of projects in other towns starting, so it'll be perfect. So get our stuff done.
Thank you, Brandon.
Yep.
Up next, we have personnel. Move firefighter Crystal Heim from probation to regular for firefighter.
I mean, I don't need feedback. I mean, sounds like she's met the criteria, so.
Make the motion to approve.
Thank you, Ryan. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mel. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Before we do the attorney, there's just it'll be a closed session, so there's correspondence. If there's any information there, you'll see there was a CAM school survey in there that the school had sent us, so there's a little reading there to see what the voters had, at least at that point, said. So at that, we will be closing the session. Closed session, talk a land transaction with our attorney. So if anybody would like to stay, we can step out into that room or outside, and then you can come back. If not, thank you for coming tonight.
Can you see if is Melanie on?
Bring it up, Ian.
This closed session's recorded or not?
Ask Melanie. I'm
Okay.
not sure.
I'm going to stop this one for now.